Ow! I reached a point where I became very disenchanted with anything that man made for God. You know, growing up, I was always taught that the church is God's house. That's just how I knew it. That is God's house. That is where God lives. If you want God, that's where you go. It's like, oh, wow, God's got a lot of houses. He's just like all over the place, huh? He's got the Protestant house over there. He's got the Jewish synagogue over there. He's got the Lutheran, the Baptist, the little Calvary Assembly of God, right? I mean, God's got houses everywhere. I understand the concept. People come together in a building. We talk about God, and it's God's house. I reached a point in my life, and it was really, really hard because I just really couldn't see God in God's house. I know. Sorry, everybody out there. Like, I know it's selfish of me to say I'm a horrible person, but I could just never get myself to see him there. Were we there for God? Yes. Could he possibly be there? 100%. Was he there? Probably. But for me, I always felt a little bit differently. You know, we walk into these places of worship, right? And we go, whoa, look at the architecture. Look how beautiful this is, and especially in some of the older ones, we're blindsided by the physical beauty of them. They're beautiful. Some have gold detailing, all this stuff. And all of a sudden we're just looking in God's house at all this architecture. And the funny thing about it is that it's all stuff that man has created in his name. And that connection has always stuck with me. I've always kind of said, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Especially a lot of these churches, it's just not Catholic churches. I mean, I'm talking about, big denominational churches. We walk in and we're mesmerized by this sheer beauty, but yet we step over the 5 bums outside that are laying on the steps or over in the alley in order to get to it, and it's all of a sudden we just forget about them, right? I mean, look at them. They ain't getting in. They don't meet the requirements, even though the doors are technically open. I have so many images of that, how we have these spectacular buildings in these areas with people sleeping outside all around them. And this is in every country for every religion, okay? I am not just saying this is in the Catholic religion. I've been to plenty of really big, amazing temples in India. Same thing. Buddhist countries, same thing. I've been to some Watts where you're just like, holy moly, how do they build this? Same thing outside. And no matter where I've gone, what religion it's been, it's always been kind of synonymous. That when you walk into a really nice fancy church, there's going to be poor people sitting outside on the corner. And I always ask myself the question, what would Jesus do, right? Who did Jesus come for? Well, he'd probably sit down on the steps and start talking to that person. And that really puts things into perspective. A lot of people don't catch that, but I've always caught it. I reached a point where I became very disenchanted with anything that man made for God. Like, I just became disenchanted with building. So it was towards the end of my travels, and I had one of the things on my list, Nepal. Why it's on there, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, I wanted to see the tallest mountain in the world, Everest. I just want to go and I want to see it. That's it. I'm not a climber. I can't pretend I'm a climber. And I just wanted to see the sheer beauty of the place, right? The Sherpas, believe that a God lives on the top of Mount Everest. It's a very holy place to them. If God lives at the top of that mountain, I got to see it for myself. That's right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see if they're right. We got to Everest Base Camp. I was with our guide, and he suggested one morning that, we go to the spot. We had to leave early. To see it. And I was like, all right, great. Wakes me up at like 4 a.m. or something. It's still pitch black out. It's bone-chilling cold. We got our headlights on and hiking around for, 2-3 hours. And then he takes me to a spot. We sit down. And we waited. And we waited. And then all of a sudden, told me, he was like, just look that way. I was like, okay. And when the sun came up over the horizon, it ignited like 4 or 5 of like the world's highest peaks at like the same time. These giants just lighting up like boom, 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 boom. Every time the sun got a little bit higher, another one would come into focus. Sat there and I watched it. Crystal clear day. Absolutely amazing. Looking out at the roof of the world. At the roof of the world. and seeing nothing but those mountains. And I literally said to myself, I was like, dude, now this is God's house. Like, the Sherpas are right. If I was God, not to say that but I'm just like, dude, I wouldn't blame him for like calling that his house. I mean, think about it. It doesn't get more spectacular than that. The roof of the world with nothing but the most extreme conditions around you. The beauty and the danger all mixed into one. Sheer ice rock, just like, whoa, Everest. You're looking up at it. You're just like, whoa, what? All these big mountains. And I was like, dude, now this is God's house. Like I've seen it. Like 100%. Oh, like, why can't this be God's house? Mental bandwidth started going back and forth, right? Gets all fired up. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. And I just thought about, in the Western world, how there's just so much emphasis on the building, right? But out here, there's no buildings. Everything I'm staring in front of me is something God built. Now, when I say that, you're going to go, oh, yeah, God built that? Yeah, right. Oh no, it's nature, and it's the tectonic plates, and it's all this stuff, and science gives us the mountains. It's not what I'm saying. I understand that. But what I'm saying is everything was perfectly where it was supposed to be at the exact moment I was there. In the way that everything was there was perfect in its own way, that only God understood. I mean, it humbled me in a way where I was just like, dude, whoa, get out of here. And it really opened my eyes because I was like, maybe, there's a lot more to God and things about him that maybe I've just never been taught. And it's not to say you can't pray to God in a cornfield, or you can't pray to God in the jungle, or you can't pray to God in your own home, or any of that stuff. It was like the whole house thing kind of reminds me more of like a community center. I think the Sherpas got it right. I think that's God's house. And it changed a lot. A lot of thoughts went through my mind. A lot of the buildings lost their luster after that. When you see that, you're just like, dude, God totally built that. That's his house. He designed it. Look at his design. He's like the best architect in the world. Granted, we could build really cool stuff, but we're doing it from like a human capacity. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way or thought that way, or when I talk about that stuff, people look at me and they go like, dude, you're just like, what are you now? Are you like some like weird, like spiritual mystic where it's like, you kind of like the church, you kind of like Jesus, but you also like kind of like the mountains, and you're like one of those weird people that like nature and stuff. Like, who are you? Like, what do you believe? And it's so funny to get that question because I'm like, dude, maybe there's a reason Jesus prayed in gardens. Maybe there's a reason he went to the desert for 40 days that we just don't know about. He was connecting himself to something other than the buildings. There was a reason why he was wandering around all the time. And nobody sees it that way. At least not a lot of people see it that way, but I kind of saw it that way. I was like, dude, now I get it. Jesus, if I were you too, I'd pray in a garden because there's nothing between you and God. When Jesus is in the garden, there's nothing between him and God. When I was on that mountain, there's nothing between me and God. As soon as I walk into a building, this is between me and God. I got to go through another layer. And I saw it my whole life. Fishing as a young kid, being in nature, being out in nature, just like being amazed by just the most spectacular things that happen every single day in front of us. And we just take them for granted. The sunrise, the way it hits sometimes the way it hits the clouds and lights them up pink, and everything. It happens every day. And we completely miss it. Because of the buildings, because of the car, because of the cell phone, because of all this crap. But anyway, I hope you guys like this. Yeah, if you like, give it a like because you want to, and if you want to subscribe because you want to. I think it's fun talking about this stuff and having some fun with it. Man, and the crap that I've thought about in my life just still boggles my mind, But I love to share it. I was afraid of sharing it for a long time, but now I'm just like, screw it. Because you know what? If there's somebody else out there, you're not alone. Person, man, woman, you're not alone. But anyway, Catch you guys on the next one. And remember, keep the faith.